A couple people have asked me questions recently that got me thinking about how we divide ourselves up, how we organize ourselves as a society, and what really is and is not important. So I'm going to ponder this next on the Constitution Study.
Every day, we're everyday Americans. Hold our own and call it home. Put it all on a little piece of land. Pay the bills, stay out of jail. Love the neighbors and have a few good friends. Every day, we're everyday Americans.
Well, hello there, everyday Americans. Paul Engel here with the Constitution Study, where we read and study the Constitution. We teach the rising generation to be free. I'm glad you could join me. As always, head to the website, constitutionstudy.com. That's where you can find out everything I'm working on. You can find all the news. Sign up for the newsletter. Once a month, I send out a newsletter with news of what's going on. You can even get this material emailed directly to you when it's released. You can also maybe find out more about the groups that are supporting the Constitution Study. Groups like the band Rebel North that lets me use their music, Restore the Intent that's actually having me speak at one of their events, help share the message of what's going on. And that's probably the biggest thing you could do, is you can share the message so that more people know that there is material out there to help them read and study, and you don't have to be an academician. You don't have to do this at a collegiate level. If an 18th century farmer can understand the Constitution, a 21st century American should be able to. So with that, let me talk about the questions that I've been asked lately. And I'm not going to get into the specifics, as I don't have permission for them to use that, but I find something very interesting. One question that I was asked, well, the two questions fall into two different categories. One is, things are such a mess, how do we fix them? And that's a whole big ball of fur that we can deal with that. But it relates very much to the other question I've been asked several times lately, and that is, who in Washington, D.C. do I think is constitutional? And I want to kind of deal with these together because, as I said, it got me thinking. Now, the first thing we have to understand is we've spent about 150 years taking this country, this land of the free and the home of the brave, and messing it up. We spent 150 years turning more and more power over to the federal government, letting them take more and more power they weren't entitled to, submitting more and more to an oligarchy of justices on the Supreme Court, to watching our rights being trampled and doing absolutely nothing, to worrying more about the goodies we're going to get out of D.C. than the rights they're infringing to give them to us. And you don't change that overnight. Like I said, it's 150 years. So I hear a lot of people with a lot of interesting ideas, different programs, different projects, different agendas. And I can't say I dislike them, but to me it asks a very interesting question. Is the problem in Washington, D.C., or is the Washington on Main Street America? Take, for example, term limits. Now, frequently people talk about, well, we need to get those people out so we can get new people in. Okay, we forget that every one of those people in the House of Representatives, in the Senate, even in the White House, well, they ran for election. They were elected indirectly, in the case of the president. They were elected by us. We chose them. They're there because, as a society, as a group, that's the people we chose. Now, your candidate may have lost the election, but you participated in a process that picked these people that are infringing on our rights. If we sweep aside the current crop of representatives and we put in a whole new crop that we have chosen, what makes us think they're going to be any better? They're going to be any different? We've already taught them that the way to get elected is to promise us goodies, or just convince us that the other person is so bad we couldn't possibly allow them to be elected. See, until we change how we go about picking our representatives, changing who sits on the deck chairs doesn't change the fact that the Titanic's going down. So that got me along to the other question, and that is, well, who in the Washington, D.C. do I think is constitutional? And the person threw out a name or two. And my reaction, I'm kind of curious. I haven't heard back from them, but my reaction was probably a little different because I said, I really don't care. Well, it's not so much I don't care. I don't focus on the people. You see, I don't support something because this person is pushing it and this person's opposed to it. I don't care if it's Republicans, Democrats, independents, you name it. If what they are doing is constitutionally authorized and expands liberty, I'm for that particular project. If it is unconstitutional or if it restricts liberty, then I'm against it. In other words, I'm not focusing on the person in the office. I'm focusing on what the office is doing. Now, I know that's different. I've always been a little different. But think of it this way. Let's pick your favorite politician. I don't care who it is, the person that you think is the most constitutionally sound. Are they 100% perfect? Do they have a perfect voting record for the constitutionality and expansion of liberty? I can pretty much say they're not. But you see, if I attach myself to a person, well then I have a problem. See, if what they're doing is unconstitutional, but I support the person, I've now established a conflict. And it works the other way around. What happens if the unconstitutional person, the person has a terrible track record, has support on constitutional legislation, on expanding liberty? What if they do something right? What if they support something that is better, that is constitutional, that does expand liberty? Well, my first reaction, if I'm focusing on people, is I'm going to be against it because the wrong people did it. So it's the spirit of party that George Washington warned us about in his farewell address. And I have a whole other video I did on that. So let's take a step back. Let's worry not about the people, but about what they're doing. The only time I really care about the people is when they're running for office. And then I'm going to judge them based on what they've done. So when you look at your candidate, when your candidate comes to town and says, I either want to remain in office or I want to take over this office, well, have them show you your track record. Look at what they've done. Have them explain to you. If you look at something and say, well, isn't this unconstitutional? Have them explain to you why they supported it. Let's focus less on the people and the personalities and focus more on what they're doing and see if it matches what the Constitution actually says they are authorized to do. Now you're asking yourself now, what does that have to do with the first question, which is how do we fix the problem? That's how we fix the problem. You see, if we wipe out the entire Congress and put a whole new group of people in it that do the exact same things they're doing today, we haven't fixed the problem. If we create a new program, or we defund a program, or we change this or that, if we got rid of the 16th and 17th Amendments, if we did, if we established term limits, the problem is the people choosing the representatives haven't changed. If we want Washington to be better, then we have to choose a better representative. There's a great quote from, I believe it was Grover Cleveland. It says, if Congress is evil and corrupt, it's because we allow them to be evil and corrupt. If they are judicious and good, it's because we demanded that of them. What are you demanding of your representatives? So yeah, this is a little different. Think about it. What if we spent less time worrying about the names on the candidates or the parties they're a member of, and we looked a lot closer at what they were doing? If the electorate began choosing representatives in the House, in the Senate, if they voted for electors for president that looked at candidates' constitutionality, well then maybe the mess we've made over the last 150 years, maybe we can start pointing back in the right direction. Like a super tanker on the ocean, we're not going to change direction overnight. No election, no group of elections is going to change what we've done over the last 150 years. But until we recognize that it is we the people that have ultimately let it happen and start looking to change the ship of state, we're going to continue heading for that waterfall. We're going to head for the destruction of liberty. And changing the captain isn't going to make a difference if they're still steering the same course. So that's what I've been thinking about lately. Hopefully I've made you think a little bit. Hopefully you'll look at candidates a little differently. Now maybe you agree with me, maybe you don't. Maybe you think your pet project is the one thing that will fix the nation. Hey, if it's a good project, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying that cures a symptom. I want to get down to cure the disease. Now there's nothing wrong with curing a good symptom. A good cure for a symptom, but a good cure for the disease, I think would be a lot better. Tell me what you think. Head over to the website, constitutionstudy.com. Leave a comment, ask a question, engage in some way. Ask me to come speak. Just reach out and let me know what's going on. Share the information. If you can support the work that I'm doing, great. But most of all, share the information and help others to see that, yeah, it's not a question of personality or party or process or program. Ultimately it is we the people, and taking responsibility for the people we have hired to represent us for the work that they are doing, and then taking control of what they're doing. So hopefully, again, I made you think. I hope I'll see you again the next time on the Constitution Study.
You have to know wherever you make your stand came from